to think through all of those different trees. And this is true, this is something that is true outside of poker and that people tend to forget. They just do things or say things or act in a certain way, make certain decisions without thinking through, okay, what are all the possible ways that this can actually go right? What are the ways it can go wrong? And how am I going to react? And so it's a feedback loop, because once you realize that, then you might have to actually tweak your process, because if you see that you keep coming to a decision and then the feedback loop tells you, no, it wasn't the right decision, then something's wrong.
So you led perfectly. I'm going to add, by the way, I'm going to ask you about fact patterns. One more question, in just a second. But you just led to the perfect segue, so I'm going to take the advantage. Just explain really briefly: observe, orient, decide, act.
The OODA loop. So
No, OODA loop.
that's from John Boyd, who was an Air Force pilot. And he crafted this term, OODA loop, to talk about how you're supposed to fight, how you actually act as a pilot when you're in a fighter plane and you need to get the enemy. So the OODA loop is, you have to realize, kind of observe and see what's happening, and then orient yourself in that situation, decide what you're going to do, and then act. But the important thing is that you need to try to get inside your enemy's OODA loop so that you can anticipate what they're going to do and respond to that in kind. And that's become kind of this decision thing that's taken on a life of its own and gone far outside of fighter pilots and all and that entire world, because it's just so powerful. That key insight: get inside your enemy's OODA loop. What are they observing? How are they orienting? What does that mean for what they're likely deciding and what they're likely to do? Now, let me actually respond to that in advance. Let me anticipate it and let me act in that way. But this is a constantly evolving process,
Right.
because if you get in their OODA loop and they realize that and they get into your OODA loop, then the loop changes. And now you have to reorient and do it all over again. And so it's this constant back and forth, especially if you have two worthy adversaries.